Is the worst over for the pullback? Are we about to see one of the biggest breakouts that we've seen in a long time for crypto? We'll discuss this and a whole lot more in today's show. I'll show you why I'm longing ETH over here. I'll also show you where Bitcoin's most likely to go next and the two driving factors that are most likely going to cause this pump, and we're witnessing it right here, right now. So smash the like button, hit the bell notification, and subscribe to the channel, and we'll get straight into it. Banter bubbles over here on the hourly. A lot of the coins are starting to pick up. If we quickly look at the daily, a lot of the red has been recovered, right? So yesterday we spoke about the Monday range trade, and then I was updating the Discord community as well throughout, showcasing how you want to be taking profits on any of the short trades that we took and looking to immediately flip long. So that's essentially what we've done. We'll be talking about why. One of the reasons why is because we're seeing the DXY as well breaking back out of the trading range, right? So one of the little bit of causes for concern over the last couple of days and weeks when we started to see prices pull back was the fact that you had this candle, perfect retest for the dollar index into key support over there. But you can see that this is now rejected and started to break back down. And if you get acceleration towards the downside for the DXY, towards that multi-decade trend line, which I've highlighted over here, that's about a 4.39% drop. That's going to bring a lot of liquidity into the risk on markets, and you should see prices continue towards the upside. So if you look at the stock market, what you want to really be focusing on, and I'm on a low time frame over here because remember, we do have the futures gap, which is situated slightly below, that is in the pink box over here. If prices do come back down to there, that of course is going to be a little bit of a cause for concern. But in the interim, all you have to do is focus on this little trend line over here. As long as it keeps holding this over here, the DXY should cause a little bit of a push up over there in the stock market. If you start to close below this trend line, then we can start to look for possibility of pulling back a little bit deeper over there, right? Gold also, we spoke about gold having potentially topped, right? Major top on gold over there. And then we said in the lower high, and we said, if you do get another opportunity where it comes up for the third test, which we're now fast approaching, around that 3,300 mark for gold, that's where you'd look for the next lower high. And then for those of you that missed out maybe on a short opportunity and you want to take a short trade, well, it's a sensible stop to still have your short trade up there, enter into the short trade over here. And basically, if you can break and hold back below the pink box over here, which is coming in at a gold price just below 3,200, that would be indicative that this should start to accelerate towards the downside. And I think gold breaking under $3,000 would really start to look like a massive deviation on the high time frames, where you'd expect a further drop and acceleration towards the downside, which is typically also good for risk on assets, because we know that's the flight away from safety back into risk, right? For the risk seekers out there. So as it currently stands, Bitcoin is looking really strong over here, and we're still in the midst of completing the fifth and final wave of the cycle, right? We spoke about this a whole lot. We have wave 1, we have wave 2 coming down into the correction, wave 3 coming into these highs that were at $72,000, wave 4, which was the correction down to 48K. And now this is all part of the fifth and final wave, right? How far will it extend is the question. Well, I've outlined explicitly that some of the at least closer targets that we're looking at is that 125 to 130, and we need to reassess how price reacts into that. Now, the reason we have to mention this is because we're getting very close, right? At the current rate at which price is moving, you could see Bitcoin in that zone as soon as within the next 2 to 3 weeks, right? We've seen bigger candles than this before. If you put in a $10,000 candle right here, right now, which we've seen those environments before, that would immediately put Bitcoin just below $120,000. That could happen as soon as even this week, right? So still hunting for that fifth and final wave, or at least for some sort of a sign that the trend will become exhausted. But right now it is looking strong. The MACD still does have a lot of momentum towards the upside, which is looking good. And also on top of that, if we look at our trend trading time frame over here, which we focus specifically on the 5-day using the 3, the 9, and the 30 moving average, well, you've had multiple candles consolidating above the previous closing highs, right? Which you can see over here. There it is. We got this candle closing exactly into that second candle rejected. We had a first 5-day candle close above that, and now we have our first 5-day candle both opening and potentially in this 5-day period closing above that level, which would suggest new all-time highs are imminent, right? So in terms of closing candles, well, we've already hit those all-time highs, but in terms of actual all-time high candles, I would expect within this 5-day period, you should get acceleration through to above that 109,358, right? So all in all, that's looking good. This is starting to look like a breakout. It's just a little bit unfortunate that it's happening on low volume. That's the only thing that's really there as something that should be in the back of your mind as a bull. But we said the longer you consolidate in this zone over here, the higher the probability is that you're going to lead into that breakout. And right now, right here, it does look like we're about to witness that. You can see multiple candle closes all above the high volume area, recapturing and breaking out the value area high. Consolidations above the value area high, which is marked by the high volume profile with the orange line running across over here. We've now got 1, 2, 3, and this is now working on the 4th candle above that, would indicate acceleration higher and continuation of that trend. We spoke about this yesterday. We spoke about taking both the long and the short trade. We said that short traders ultimately would have their stop losses placed over here, which is a sensible trade. However, that also provides liquidity towards the upside, which could cause that acceleration, right? I also spoke about this is the probabilistic setup, because when you approach trading and markets, you need to view things from a probabilistic standpoint, right? What are the probabilities? What would be the trade plan, and where would you enter? And I said, personally, I would not be taking the short trade on Bitcoin, but instead rather looking for the long trade over here. But the short trade is there for those of you who have your finger on the pulse and you wanted to time a perfect entry over there. However, I would say that the better approach to looking for the short trade would be if you get a swing failure pattern, which would be an attempted swing into the highs, and then you start to break below, at which point you can move your long trade stops to break even, and then you can enter into the short trade, and then you have a risk-free trade setup over there, right? So I know that might be a little bit confusing for people that don't understand trading. If you don't understand trading, remember you can join Whale School for free, right? There's a link in the description below. We have already started, but we're actually doing another cohort or at least workshop later on today, right? So all in all, that's looking good on the high time frames. Dailies look good over here for continuation higher. Price is holding above that yellow line, which is representative of the RSI level. As long as you maintain above that level at 106,664, daily RSIs will continue to trend towards the upside, and therefore you can kind of negate those bearish divergences. When price is below this, that's what's going to cause those bearish divergences, right? Now, what is causing the pump and what is most likely to continue the pump? It's all in this chart, right? It's the USDT dominance, which is now going to be approaching for the 4th time into this trend line. Now, oftentimes the 4th test of a particular level leads to the break of that level and probable acceleration lower, right? If we do put in a move very, very similar to what we're seeing, of course, as mentioned over here in the DXY, right? If you're looking for the DXY to accelerate towards the downside, and USDT does do something similar, where ultimately price might pause temporarily over there, but in the coming days and weeks, which could be, during this time period in May, the sell in May and go away is clearly not going to work out this time around, especially if we do see the USDT dominance grinding into this 4th test of this trend line. That's going to lead to the break, right? Test point 1, 2, 3, and now you're coming in for that 4th test. That acceleration towards the yearly open is probably going to lead to quite substantial pumps across the board, right? So that's really what I have my eye out on. That's what I'm watching over here. And I highlighted this live on the show on Monday when we said we came into the fair value gap, which is an inefficiency candle. So we're looking for some sort of a rejection as price was pulling back, and we got that. Yesterday, I highlighted to the Whale Room community as well in the Discord, pay close attention to this area over here, coming in at about 4.7%. If you start to put in a lower high around that region, that could lead to acceleration down, and that's where you want to start to cut your short trades and reposition into long trades. And I'll show you what we did in a moment when we relooked at on the FEMX chart, right? And on the Monday range, right? So daily exchange volume still coming down, kind of in alignment with what we suggested over here, that it's unfortunate that this rally is occurring on relatively low volume. It's not a death sentence per se, but it's just a little bit of a warning sign, something to keep in the back of your mind. If volume does start to pick up while price is moving to new highs, that will just be extra fuel to continue the price action towards the upside, right? So we want to see that daily exchange volume move towards the upside, showing that retail participants are actually returning to the market, depositing money onto exchanges and looking to trade on the long side, right? liquidation levels. Let's just quickly do a refresher over here. I need to be sure that this has refreshed. Okay, 24-hour liquidations, 227 million. So you can see a lack of positioning in the market, right? Both longs and shorts, I think, are a little bit hesitant, probably sidelined over here, which is where you start to see those runaway markets. If you do actually clear those highs and volume comes back in, then you could get players chasing the price action onwards and upwards, right? So one thing that I'm focused on is Ethereum over here. We believe that Ethereum has a lot of catching up to do and could do so, right? So we got the full send level over here. If you start to see Ethereum clearing, call it into 2,600 with multiple closing candles, that's going to have look like a major shakeout. You've already broken that trend. This is the area of interest yesterday. We shorted from near the highs into that level, and then we close the short position and look to flip long based. I'll show you on the Monday range trade over there. So we're looking at the full send level. If you can start to get multiple candles consolidating above this downsloping trend line, which is pretty much where we are at now, meaning you don't want to take out this 4-hourly low, which comes in just under $2,500, right? Hold above $2,500 for multiple candles, and you increase the likeliness and probability that you're going to break above the full send level. If you start to get above this level, I think that ETH can very, very quickly begin to accelerate, and the targets remain the same that we've had for weeks now. We said first and foremost 2,800, then we're looking at 3,300, which is towards the yearly open for Ethereum as one of the predominant targets. And keep in mind, that would be the equivalent of targeting the yearly open on USDT dominance, right? So if USDT dominance makes it to the yearly open, so should ETH make it to its yearly open. And that's a beautiful catch-up trade over there. So currently long on that, with also liquidation levels situated slightly above at 2,600 over here. So if you do get a little bit of a squeeze into there, that can accelerate price onwards and upwards, right? So this was the trade setup that we took yesterday in Whale Room, and I spoke about how I'd be taking profits along the way, 20% off here, 20% off here. So you got 40% of the position out, and stops were already moved to break even, which means that it was a completely free trade with zero chance of losing. I spoke about to Whale Room, where if you start to recapture that 50 EMA on the 5-minute time frame, very, very low time frames, but this is what the market has come to, right? We need trades. So the only way we can do this is on the low time frame. And the only way that I can keep you up to date with all of these trades, guys, is if you are in Whale Room, right? It's the only way that on a low time frame, I can actually tell you exactly what I'm doing, right? So there it is. I had to go to sleep last night, but I was warning them already ahead of time, watch this level over here for the rejection. We spoke about taking partial profits. There it was, right? Partial profits along the way on the ETH short trade. And a lot of people made a lot of money on that trade. So congratulations to all of you who were sharp enough to take it. Now, ultimately, reclaiming the Monday range high over here is an optimistic and good sign. There's no guarantee that you're going to come all the way down and sweep the low, right? So therefore, this trade is now officially over for us, right? So I'm actually going to close all of this out. This trade is over for us. We've taken 40% off the table, and we are completely finished with this trade. Let's just quickly clear that up as well. There it is. All right, now we repositioned into longs, right? So as it currently stands, I'm pretty much long from right about here, based on a little bit of a high time frame thought process, which is this: multiple candles closing above 2.5 is likely to send you to 2.6. Break above 2.6 and you should get acceleration higher. And that's currently the trade that I'm in over here on Femex. We'll just quickly let that load up. Apologies for that, guys. For those of you, by the way, that do want to trade as well on Femex, there is a link in the description below over here. Have a look. There is $100 up for grabs for the first time depositors. If you deposit, they'll give you $100 sign up bonus over there, plus more. It depends on how much you deposit into the exchange, right? So currently we're holding that trade on ETH, right? I'll update everybody, all the members in the Discord, regarding this trade. As long as we keep holding above the Monday high over here, I do think that there's a real chance that you could start to get mass acceleration. And when paired up with Bitcoin, if it does actually break out and accelerate towards all-time high, you probably re-enter full-on FOMO state. So for those of you that want free trades, also, these trades are still relevant for altcoin trades. We dropped this over here in the daily candle newsletter. So use the link in the description below if you do want to actually go through to that. There's a link in the description below. It's entirely free. You can sign up to our suite of newsletters over there on Substack, and they'll email them to you Monday to Friday, right? All the different trades, all the different market analysis for those of you that are readers out there. For the rest of you, again, I highly encourage you, jump into Whale Room. I'm not the only trader that's in there. We have a wealth of knowledge, a lot of very, very good traders absolutely crushing it. We have Chris, we have Farouk, we have Josh as well over here, Josh the Navigator. And then we have a full-time dedicated traditional markets trader as well for those of you that want to be trading on the low time frames, things like gold, NASDAQ, S&P 500, and a couple of stocks and commodities. So smash the like button, hit the bell notification, and subscribe to the channel. A bit of a short and sweet show today, but it's a pleasure. As always, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Have a good day, and cheers.